Welcome to the Depleted Key Podcast, Episode 7. Today is March 14th, 2021. My name is Spoogy, and I'm joined by Tarithal.
Ooh, we mixed it up on you. I always do that.
Gotcha.
Keeping it fresh.
Yeah.
So we get tyrannical, bolstering, storming, and prideful. You have any good dungeon stories for this week?
Well, I only got 115 in. Did you do more than that?
Yeah, I've got a total of five 15 pluses done this week so far.
I mean, you guys were climbing up towards 20 this week, weren't you?
Well, yeah, that's something that kind of sucks. So last week we had done a 19 mist, which gave 5 of us 19 keys this week. And it's like the worst freaking week to do Mythic Plus. And I think most of my guys were kind of spooked because if you watch like any of the big streamers right now, like the highest keys they're doing are like 19s. Like the pinnacle of keys they're doing this week are like 19s.
It is a rough week.
Yeah.
Tyrannical by itself is always, going to be a little bit tougher, but then you add in bolstering, which really kind of caps how much you really want to pull at once. And storming is like one of those affixes that I feel like is kind of like under the radar, stressful.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people are doing like for funning this week, they're just bringing whatever comps in. But yeah, we did a Sanguine Depths right before I jumped into the podcast. And we brought in a guy that we don't typically do high keys with. And it was just a 15, but we were probably 30 seconds short of 2-chesting it. So it's your typical tyrannical week. And we did a 16 mist before that, which I healed. And honestly, it felt pretty stress-free. Nothing special. So I don't know. I think it was your average week.
I was doing some earlier today, trying to gear some guildies up, and there were just a few spots where it was just complete cancer with storming.
Yeah.
Specifically, I'm thinking of Theater of Pain.
Yeah, that's actually what was coming to mind for me too. Sanguine Depths was tight as well, but
and in particular, we had one spot that really wiped us. Was the you put the orb in the little holder, and you can teleport platform to platform, and then after you get past two of the bigger platforms, you get to that really tiny one that has the guy that throws out the tornado really fast, I know what you're talking about, the 3-pack, right? So you have the guy that does the volley that you have to interrupt, then you have the single target guy that will chunk one person really hard, and then at the same time you got the guy that throws the tornadoes at you, that 3-pack. Right, it's a tough pack. And then storming on top of everything else had us all dancing around, and I was cranking as much heals as I could. I could not get everybody up. Plus, you had, people getting knocked off. And it actually turned out really funny. It was down to just the tank and myself. And the mobs were about to die. And then I died. And then the tank died. And we started to run back. And I guess the ads died somewhere with us dying.
Okay.
Because as we're running, and the group is like really spread out. Because we all, had staggered deaths. And the pride spawned on us back at the start, but it spawned, up the first set of stairs from, when you fall down. And so then we had everybody spread out. And so by the time we got everybody onto the pride, the stacks were already like starting to stack up.
Yeah.
And I'd already blown every cooldown I had on, trying to save the pool before that. And so we ended up wiping to the pride. Like
I had a feeling you were going to say that. And we actually had that happen this week. But that's actually happened to me twice. And so the first time it happened, we thought about it afterwards. We're like, what could we have done to have saved this run? And I got to put it into practice this week because we actually had that exact thing happen where I actually lived. I'm pretty much like invincible right now, especially in like a 15 key. My Demon Hunter just doesn't die. Like I can self-sustain through like anything. And so pretty much everyone on my team died. I ended up killing the last mob, which spawned the pride, like you're saying at the beginning, because everyone respawned at the beginning. And this time, because we had failed the key once, so the last time what I did is I jumped off the edge, right, to get back to the pride quickly to help my team out.
Right.
But what I forgot to do was go ahead and click the orb up ahead. That's what happened last time. And then we had to like pivot our strategy completely, right? But we lost a bunch of time because we had to essentially, run from platform to platform to platform. And this time what I did is I went ahead and took the portal over, and I clicked the orb, which gives you the quick pathing back, right? And so I went ahead and did that, and someone had off-tanked the pride for a couple seconds, and I don't even think anyone died, so I was able to click the orb, jump off the edge, respawn, taunt the pride, and it worked out fine. We timed the key, no issue. But yeah, I've seen that happen a couple times now, specifically with our route and how we spawn the pride there.
Well, yeah, and we also had a tough spot there where we did not get to click the orb.
Yeah.
Because we dropped dead as the mobs were dropping dead.
Yeah.
And it just did not work out. So yeah, that was tough. That we ended up kind of dying and rezzing real quick and trying to, keep the pool going with the pride and at least get that down. But then we were just way behind. We had to run through all the different platforms all the way again, get up there, get to the boss, and it just really killed the key.
Well, at least you had pride for a little bit of movement speed.
But you and I did a really funny Halls of Atonement this week.
Yeah. Yeah. That was one of the first weeks, or one of the first keys of the week. And it was with people that really haven't played with each other in a long time. And so it wasn't very coordinated, and I had just come off a week where I was doing 19, so I think I was overconfident.
I think I was actually DPS on that one, and we had Drexy healing. And we had told him, oh, hey, come roll this. This would be really easy. Nothing, no problems. And then it was Murphy's Law. What could go wrong went wrong, including what was going on with the invis pot.
So that's actually bugged this week, and that's not our fault. And this week, if you watch the MDI this weekend, they were actually pretty much avoiding trying to skip the prides because it just wouldn't work. And so I guess there's a bug right now that if you have a hot ticking on you, it'll break you out of your invisibility.
Okay.
And there's various effects that'll break you out of the invisibility pot, but it's actually bugged this week. And so we lost a little bit of time to doing a skip. Right, so after the first boss, we always run up the platform and try to grab one of the gargoyles to get our 80% right before the second boss. But we do the skip all the way in between there, so that's just kind of our standard pathing. But yeah, we lost a little bit of time to people dying from being broken out of invis pots. The second Helcus that we pulled, it's bolstering week, and I basically do the small pull before the Helcus. Just because we come off of doing a really large pull, right? So I do a small pull before they do the second Helcus just to let cooldowns reset. And in the process of doing that, someone body pulled the second Helcus, and so it got bolstered to hell. I mean, it had a crazy amount of stacks, and we just refused to full wipe, and so we probably died 10 or 11 times doing that. And then we actually made it to the last boss and had plenty of time to time it. And we ended up dying on that too, not soaking the lines. So
yeah, I think the second time I got up there, I had a little bit of a brain fart and just completely missed the soak. The first time I got into the line, so I was taking that damage, but then on the other side, somebody wasn't soaking.
Okay.
And so I was really my health was just flying down like 100 to 0 really quick. So
yeah,
I don't know exactly what happened, but we scuffed it pretty bad, but we could have saved it, but we just didn't.
It's kind of funny because the team I've been running with consistently, they know that it's kind of like my standard pull now to just grab everything before the third boss and just yank it on top of the boss. I've just kind of incorporated that into my standard routing, and it actually kind of threw us off this week because of bolstering, and I can't do that. And so, I don't know, that's kind of funny. It's kind of a separate topic, but yeah, doing that pull specifically is really depressing because I'm used to having all my cooldowns and everything now,
Yeah.
It's really annoying having to spread that out now.
So next week is going to be Fortified, Spiteful, and Grievous, and Prideful. Spiteful, those little guys that come out, and I swear they've got 20 feet long arms.
Yeah.
But they typically will spawn on melee and then kind of head out towards people. But we learned a lot of cool little tricks to really kind of handle them. It almost seems like not a very big, impactful thing. I mean, some of those tight hallways, say Sanguine and Theater of Pain, it can be a little bit of a nuisance, but
there's some really good weak-cores for that too, right? Being able to track, it'll, play a clown sound at you or something, a little clown cart sound at you, and you can put arrows over nameplates and stuff like that. And once you get all of that incorporated into your kit, it kind of becomes a no issue. Especially if you have a monk or someone with you, just to make sure those are separated from you.
Yeah, you can push them back. You can do mass root. all sorts of cool stuff. I've actually got it set up on my plater to where you can. It specifically puts the name of the person that they are zoned in on, that they're
Okay.
going for.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
there's no guessing, and so really kind of simplifies that. But it's also Grievous, which is healer mechanic, which
Hmm.
I hate Grievous. It keeps you very busy and keeps you a little, like low key stressed out for a good chunk of the run.
Well, that's kind of interesting because I would think most of the random damage going out is probably going to be from the Spiteful, right? And so it's kind of synergistic in that way, where if your team
Yeah,
is getting meleeed by the Spitefuls, they're going to
it
be getting
keeps
the
you in
Grievous.
Grievous. Yeah,
So the better that you can handle the Spiteful, probably the less you have to actually worry about the Grievous.
yeah.
So
Um,
should be an interesting week.
which I'm really just glad that Tyrannical is not matched up with Grievous, because some of those boss mechanics, I feel like I would never be able to get people back topped off, because I mean, once you get behind, it's really a pain.
Yeah.
I feel like the changes this season are much better for Grievous, less annoying for healers, because you just give them a heal, you'll at least take off one stack. So
Actually, I didn't mind healing. I did a little bit of healing tonight. I just went in on a 16 mist. And this week specifically, it's a nasty week, right? Because it's bolstering storing, but at the same time, those aren't really like healer mechanics, right?
right.
And so most of your healing is just on the tank. So it was actually kind of a relaxing week for healers. And that's really when I like getting in and healing.
I was definitely able to get more bird in this week while healing. Get some of that owl weave or whatever you want to call it.
Oh, okay. You mess with that?
Well, yeah, I was trying to get as much DPS as I could in.
Uh huh.
I did have the whole Heart of the Wild convoke thing whenever it was lined up together.
Okay.
But I was running with a bear tank, and those things are monsters that you can pretty much ignore
Yeah.
like 90% of the time. I was able to just get so much extra damage while healing this week, just because bolstering. I mean, yeah, it's not really big on you, and then storming, annoying, but
Hmm.
overall not really big. I mean, if it hits you, it's going to hurt a little bit, but it's not like the old volcanic or something that would one shot you or half health you.
Right. Well, I've got a new project for you to heal. So last night, and I've kind of had this in the back of my mind for a while. I've been watching a lot of like the high level streamers, right? And even in MDI, they're switching the meta to have a Venthyr Holy Pally. And
Mm-hmm.
so I've had this Pally sitting at 45 for probably about 2 months. And I finally decided I wanted to max it out. So last night I got leveling, and some of my guildmates saw that I was on a low level character. And so they all jumped over to low level characters too. And we ended up going from 45 all the way to 60 last night, just from dungeons. And so my Venthyr Paladin, I kind of initially thought, I'm gonna heal on this, but I went prot just because I'm already the Vengeance Demon Hunter in keys, and I thought it would just kind of make sense since I've already got the routing and the poles and everything down to kind of run with that throughout the
Yeah.
night. And man, I'm actually having a lot of fun on the prot pally. And it's kind of nice because your consecration
Mm-hmm.
has you can talent into a slow. And man, I got the kiting down on it. And so I could do like
Okay.
these ridiculously large pulls already and just like kite it out. Just have the hammer spin behind me in the background to, attempt to keep some aggro and do some damage. And then you still have that big burst window. You pop your wings and you pop your Ashen Hollow. And
Yeah.
you can still pump pretty hard. So
Are they? How do they compare to demon hunters right now as far as
um
damage output?
really bad.
Really
They
bad.
do a lot of damage. They're not anywhere near Demon Hunters. Demon Hunters are just they're just too smooth. You just have all the
Yeah.
mobility in the world. You're just as tanky. You do way more damage. No, it's not even anywhere close to the
Yeah.
Demon Hunter.
I
But
was. Yeah. I was strictly talking about the damage category, because you're not going to talk about the big huge leaps you can do with the
I
with the
say your
demon hunter.
I say your boss damage is probably higher. I mean,
Single target.
yeah. I mean, I only got mine up to 170 item level, so it's like I can't really compare it, right? I mean,
Right.
there's a 50 item level gap in between like two characters, but um, we did I don't know. We would do. I could probably burst a little bit over 2K, or rather, I could probably end a little bit over 2K on the pally right now, as long as I have my Ashen Hollow up. which
Well, it's kind of funny that you say that, and that's what you and your guildies did, because I was actually planning on doing that probably this coming week.
okay.
Was leveling. Now
What
I'll be leveling from lower.
what character?
I'm kind of torn. I'm really thinking shaman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my other druid healer in my raid, Drexy,
Mm-hmm.
was gonna do a warrior
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I talking about how that was always what I tanked on and really enjoyed, and I feel like they may make a comeback later in the expansion.
Yeah,
They typically do.
I was thinking about it this week, and you had actually sent me a text asking about the meta, if you
Hmm.
recall that. And you were talking about
Yeah,
hunters, and I can't remember exactly what you said, but I got thinking about the comps and what could actually like change up the meta. I think if Mistweavers ever got some sort of damage buff, kind of like an Ashen Hollow, if they just reworked one of the covenants that's just not really making sense and gave them a
yeah,
large scale, damage boost, I bet you'd start seeing like these warrior, hunter, windwalker monk, or even Mistweaver monk comps,
right.
because that's what makes sense, right? So that's why the meta is currently the way it is, right? You have essentially
Off the mage.
mage is king, and so you can see it specifically in MDI, right? But the demon hunter amplifies the damage of the mage. The boomkin just essentially takes is also amplified by the demon hunter. They provide the other damage profile, right? So the fire mage is like your uncapped, get you through the dungeon as quickly as possible, and then your druid is your single target nuke plus your utility, right? And then you've got your shadow priest, which buffs the mage, and then you got your Ventur Holy Pally now for another single damage profile. But I mean, everything is essentially just built around the mage, right? And so
Right.
if you could get the same damage output on like a Mistweaver, you could potentially run like a warrior hunter monk combo, right? Because the three of those are synergistic. And then I don't really know what else you'd fit in, because the hunter kind of fills the uncapped burst potential, kind of like the mage. Not to the same degree, but pretty similarly.
He can also bring some of that utility too. Not, I mean, he can do the roots and a little bit of CC as
Yeah,
well.
I think you'd probably want maybe like an enhanced shaman, right? That would also buff the hunter.
Yeah,
And then I think you
yeah,
still want a shadow priest, because I don't think you can replace power infusion. So I think that would be the meta, or at least like a competitive meta. If the Mistweaver was able to pump out that much damage. That could be actually a really interesting meta. If they ever bump that up, that would give you two viable options opposed to just the one right now.
yeah. To me, it's not too interesting when it's all the same.
Yeah, it's
Um,
literally all the same too right now, which is kind of dumb.
it has been like that for as long as I can remember watching MDI. Typically, people do the math, and it always comes down to one answer. But yeah, I was thinking about the shaman, and so got the warrior, got the shaman, power level those up, but we would not be starting at 45. I think we'd be starting at probably 10
Mhm.
if we were picking, like one of the races that start at 10.
Okay.
But that was kind of like something we were kind of game planning for this coming week, something to kind of think about.
Okay.
But how was your raid this week?
Well, the raid was really good, actually. So last week we had a 30% wipe on Mythic Lady Minerva. And so typically the way it works is we run a strat, right? So either on Tuesday, Thursday, which is when we raid, we'll obviously bash our head into a new boss. And I kind of go in with the strategy, right, of how I think it should work.
Hmm.
And we're essentially, I mean, if I'm being realistic, we're kind of an emulation guild, right? So we just watch videos on people doing it, and then we basically mirror our strategy, you know, 90% around what they do. I think the only exception of that is probably Hungering Destroyer. I think it's probably more like 60-40 on that one, but for the most part, it's like 90-10. We take someone's strategy and 90% implement it, and then 10%, I'll kind of tweak something just to fit us. But yeah, we had her down to 30%. And we were doing a strategy where we were popping one of the canisters, essentially draining one of the canisters early on. And by doing that, we're actually changing the order in which the abilities empower. And I got looking at the guild that we were trying to emulate, And I realized that their powers were actually empowering in a different order than us. And they had way less DPS than us. And so I ended up basically just scratching what they were doing. And we just never touched the canisters. And by doing that, we delayed the bottle anima jump towards the very end. And after about 2 or 3 pulls, we had a 1% wipe. So a couple more pulls, we ended up downing it, which was pretty awesome. It's pretty sketchy towards the end. We're getting really close to having 100% canister, but we got it down. And so
and was this on Thursday or was that Tuesday?
Yeah, that was Thursday. And so on Tuesday we had the 30% wipe, and then we came back in on Thursday with the change. And yeah, we almost like 2 or 3 shot it. I think we had a 3% wipe, and then we had a 1% wipe, and then a couple attempts later we just killed it. So
well, it's kind of good that y'all have that gap in between Tuesday and Thursday, because it gives you Tuesday, you can go in, put, what do you do, 3 hours, 3.5, 4?
We just do 3 hours. Yeah, we're a 6-hour guild.
Okay, yeah, you put in your 3 hours, smash your skulls in it, and then that gives you a day in between to actually look at what was going on and fix it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
But yeah, then thank you. But then we moved on to Sun King, and we only got, I don't know, we probably only put like an hour and a half into it. And we were making pretty good progress. I think we'll have it next week with no issue. We were actually doing a strat, which you might find kind of interesting, where we essentially buff the crap out of a druid healer.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, and he's really good, but he wasn't really like optimized for the fight, but he was still pumping about 34k heals per second, because I was giving him power infusion, I was using my divine hymn, we had guardian spirit up on the boss, so we're just, everything we're giving him the innervate, and he was just going to town, and the other healers were doing really well, but I mean, he was essentially doing most of the healing. And he whispered me this week, or he whispered me today actually, and he's like, I've been testing this, and I think I'm up to about 54k now. So I think we'll go in there Wednesday and just absolutely blow through it. Yeah. And it's kind of a fun fight. It's not real difficult. It's mostly just managing your cooldowns and kind of tweaking things. So we just use like the ERT add-on, for putting the notes on the screen, and we're trying to, we shift all the cooldowns around just to make it work. And we were consistently getting through the first healing phase in less than 50 seconds. And then we were getting through both shields, and we were getting back into the healing phase again. And we would sometimes get the first shield down, sometimes we wouldn't get the first healing shield down. But I think we have that worked out. So next week, I think we'll get a kill on that as well and move into Artificer, which is probably going to be a nightmare. But
I gotta say, as a healer, I've always hated the Sun King fight. The same thing for my other druid, Drexy. We've hated it so much because it is so friggin' cheesy.
It kind of is, yeah.
I mean, all that stuff you were describing is great. That you get all these tools and you can boost him up that high. But I mean, it's just like, my goodness, like you dudes were doing that, during progression. Like I couldn't keep up with, say, like a paladin,
right?
Blowing all their little cheesy things, and then you got the orbs that you got to run around. I don't know. I just, one of those fights, I just didn't like that fight. Like, it just did not feel good as a healer. Which you would think, it's a healer mechanic that, this is great, but it just reminds me of that one in ICC, the Sleeping Dragon. You have to like heal up or
I actually like that fight.
Well, see, that fight had some cool mechanics where you go in the portals and things. But I don't know, this one just felt so cheesy and just not fun. Like, it just didn't have a fun factor for me. Like, it just was like one of those, all right, we got to do it to get to the next one,
I think I probably have more fun with it than the Raiders do, because I get to help make the decisions on, which cooldowns are going to be used where. It's kind of like my own little puzzle, right? Like, I've got all these pieces, right, and I got to put them together in the correct order, and like maybe not use a piece until later, And for me, it's fun trying to solve that puzzle, right? But I could see, especially as a DPS, there's nothing to do, dude. there's nothing to do in that fight, so I could see that being super boring. But
go turn on all your AOE talents and conduits and all
Well,
that stuff.
the thing with that fight is, in the normal and heroic version, you just kind of use your cooldowns whenever, right? But in
Hmm.
the mythic version, you essentially have these 6-second windows where you have to do so much damage or else your group just wipes. And so you have to organize your DPS cooldowns during the intermission. So they can't use any cooldowns during the first minute of the fight at all. And then we tell them very specifically during what 6-second window they can use their cooldowns. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just doing the fight over and over and over. It's literally, you do a little bit of AoE. The AoE classes, of course, are going to kill everything for you. And then you sit around while your healers do their job. And then you dodge some stuff. Oh, and then you get 6 seconds where you get to actually press your buttons. So,
Do you think you would ever enjoy 21st Manning?
I think I'd be good at it, especially this week. And we're moving into this eventually. But I got to lead a mythic raid from a tank perspective, which is a completely different experience from leading a raid from a healer perspective or even a DPS perspective. And I actually really enjoy, and I think I'm pretty good at seeing everything going on. And when I don't really have to pay attention to my character at all, then yeah, I mean, I like doing it.
Tank is one of those ones where I guess it's probably not as demanding, but typically you can't see everything that's going on in a tank perspective. I would say probably the best one would be a ranged DPS.
Yeah, I mean that's what they say, but I don't know. For me,
But
it was this week was pretty easy for me at least. But
I know back in the day they used to make those bosses so freaking big, and the hitboxes were not tuned that great.
Mhm.
And I just remember, let's just say Nax. I remember so many of the strats required the tank to be in a corner.
Yeah.
And the boss, instead of having some sort of gap between you and him, he would snap pretty much your nose is up underneath them. And so there's just no good way. And they'd be so gigantic. Some of the bosses were so big. I just remember you couldn't see anything. Your screen was just nothing but spell particles coming up and hitting the chest of the boss. Fireballs, frost bolts, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sucked. But they've definitely done better with that now. Because I was looking at some of those snaps and how close the boss gets.
Yeah, it really depends on which boss it is, and I think for me, a lot of my raid leading, anyways, isn't like paying attention to individual people. It's more like paying attention to healing cooldowns and timers of things coming up, and I can generically tell people not to be in a location, even if I do or if I don't know if they're in that location currently, right? So if I think they're in a bad spot, I can just generically say, don't be standing over in that corner or whatever. And, still kind of effectively do that role. So, but yeah, so let's talk about your raid week.
Yeah. So the Lions Hall thing.
Yeah.
Not cool. And so they opened up Cross Realm Mythic this week.
Yep.
And we have probably about half a mythic raid of raiders. So we've been kind of, re-clearing heroic, farming it, letting people, play with alts, get some other people in the guild who just don't normally raid, some time in the raid and let them have fun a little bit. But we decided we were going to jump in with this whole cross realm thing. And so we went in Wednesday. That's our first raid day.
Yep.
And it went about, I'd say, according to expectations. We get in there to Shriekwing. You get a couple pulls in. Some people leave. And then you're back in the LFG. And surprisingly, there was not that many people applying. But then, we get some people in, get a couple pulls. Somebody leaves, and then you're starting over. Progressing in Mythic as pugs, it is horrible. It was completely painful. And we went in Friday, and I did not even want to go in. It was so painful, but we ended up bringing you along, and we had you Ridley Friday.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was there Wednesday as well.
You were there Wednesday. I forget about that. It was Wednesday just wasn't fun. You get a couple pulls in, people leave, and it was very annoying to me because that's the top tier. You kind of want to sit there, put the time in, figure things out, but you're constantly having this downtime, which was just kind of killing us because we also do the 6 hour a week.
Yeah, I was kind of expecting that. So you invited me in on Wednesday for your first raid night, and I was going in and I helped from a tanking perspective, and I didn't say really anything. We kind of talked beforehand, and I'm like, I'm not, I raid lead a Mythic guild. I'm not just going to go in here and start telling people what to do or anything like that. Because that's no fun for anyone, especially when you're trying to prog things for yourself, right? And so
yeah, our raid leader wanted to learn on his own,
sure,
and get some practice in.
And,
he was not doing a bad job. To his credit,
yeah.
He was doing good. The problem is, a lot of the problems that we were having, you guys had already spent all the time wiping and had already figured out and had the fixes for.
Yeah.
So it's a delicate game. You don't want to step on anybody's toes, but it's like we kind of already know how to fix this.
Yeah, that's the funny thing too. Like, there's kind of two things going on, right? So, one, it's a pug, right? So you got a lot of people in there that probably just want to get it down as quickly as possible, right? Because they're just joining some random group. And so it's like at one point, I kind of want to like help speed things along, just because just as you said, I had already seen my guild do exactly the same thing, right? And so I kind of knew where everything was going, and then you had people leaving and joining back up, and half the night was just spent waiting for people to join the stinking raid, right? So he actually, your raid leader, whispered me with like the last half hour left. He was like, "Man, is there anything I'm missing?" Like, he's like, "I just want to keep people enthusiastic, and I want to get this down." And I told him, like, "Man, you're not doing anything wrong. Like, your strat's fine. You could do it that way. There's no issue with it. It's just typical progression, right? And it's hard to keep people interested if you don't have the numbers." So, but Friday rolled around, and he whispered me beforehand. He's like, "Oh, you want to raid lead tonight? It might look better if someone who's actually done these, bosses takes over." And so, I got to do that and raid lead a pug, and that was a lot of fun.
So what happened with Shriekwing was the original strategy was they would carry the lantern around with us, and also they were going the long way to the next pillar instead of going to the closer pillar. I'm gonna call like where you come into the room, the back, and where the boss is. I'll say the front.
Sure.
Instead of utilizing the two front pillars, we were using the two left pillars. So it was a longer run during the transition, and we're also having to like carry the lantern around. People were getting extra stacks and things. And what we did with your strategy was leave the lantern on the ground, kind of have everybody do it on their own. But we did try that Wednesday. But what we specifically did on Friday was tell them, all right, get your stack now. And that made a huge difference with everybody because people were just kind of willy-nilly running back and forth Wednesday and constantly getting hit, and it was just a mess.
Well, that's the thing, right? You just have to have a certain amount of pulls in because it's super easy, right? Just dodge the orb forehead, right? It's super easy. But at the same time, if you don't have the timing down, right? If you've never gone out to get a stack and walked back in, you might not have the timing of that down when it's like optimal to do it. So as someone who had, has killed the boss 7 or 8 times now, I kind of have that timing down. So I figured that would be something worth mentioning.
I think that was the biggest key element there was specifically saying, go now. Right.
Yeah, and I saw that issue because I had suggested it on Wednesday, just kind of casually. I'm like, this is probably being a little bit overcomplicated because really you could just leave it next to the pillar, and it's pretty simple just to kind of move in and out. You don't ever really get too many stacks, but I saw people moving at terrible times.
Yeah,
it was pugs. It was just everyone. Everyone was moving at bad times. So
yeah, you suggested that, and the very next pool we tried it. And people were running into orbs and just completely scuffed it so bad that they were like, let's just go back to the original strat. And all the pugs are like, yeah, we got way much further with that.
Cranked me up. I saw that. I was
like, buddy, we haven't like. So here's what was happening. We were not getting past the first transition. Where he goes invulnerable. Um, we were wiping by the end of that pretty much. So say about 50, 45%, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
DPS was not our problem. We had plenty of that. We had plenty of healing.
Mhm.
We just were scuffing the mechanics so bad. And it's like, once a couple people get hit, then it just becomes a snowball of, grab the lantern, get it out the way so it's not getting smashed or,
Yeah.
and then, people are then running and it's just a mess.
I totally call that like a couple episodes back too. I think we were talking about your first week, and I think I told you specifically, I'm like, this boss is going to be infuriating because you're going to wipe when you should not be wiping, right? Like all of the actual boss mechanics, you're never going to wipe to any of that. It's always going to be during the intermission because nothing else about that fight is hard.
And, during the actual fight itself, it was very annoying as a druid healer. Which I've always hated Shriek Wing just because it's not the best for druids.
Yeah.
But it was like so boring, and we were getting sniped like crazy by a paladin and a shaman. And I taught my protege the art of the snipe, and she was just killing it too. So it was just a frustrating. I don't know. I hated that fight. But then we went to Huntsman after that. And we actually had a fantastic comp for that. We had like, 2 hunters?
Yeah. Yeah. So the strategy we use, and the strategy that a lot of guilds use, so there's essentially 2 different ways of doing it. You can either have your raid soak the Sin Seekers, because that's the change with the boss, right? The Sin Seekers hit a lot harder, but you can split the damage in between multiple people. And so you either have, your raid go to a marker and everyone soaks, or else you use invulnerabilities. And so with our particular comp, we had like just the perfect amount of people with the correct cooldown timing to basically soak every single Sin Seeker, which was fantastic. And so we rolled in there, and yeah, we just had a really sloppy Shriekwing kill. We had to go through 2 intermissions, and then we had about half the raid dead, and then we finished them off probably the last 13% or something like that. And so it was by no means clean, but at least we killed it. And no one left, and so we went down to Huntsman. And me going through the fight a million times, I knew we had like the perfect comp for it, and we actually killed it within 5 pulls,
which is crazy.
Yeah,
that is crazy. It was a straight up. Probably about 10 people in a guild, and then you just had a whole bunch of pugs, and we went in and 5 pulls. And that's the first time all of my guild has seen.
No, there was one guy in there. There was one guy. I checked everyone. There was literally one other guy that had done any mythic whatsoever. At least
2 out of 20 have actually done that before. So most of the raid. But yeah, it was a very simplified strat. We had 3 markers for the Sin Seekers to go to, and then you had the invulnerability in front of that, and it was working really, really good. I gotta say, at the very end, we sacrificed the Sin Seekers to put everything on the boss. I was one of the Sin Seeker targets that had to go suicide off in the side of the room. Was not a fan because I was doing fantastic healing on that fight, and then all of a sudden I just looked like hot garbage at the end, and looking at the meters. And it was that was annoying, but I'm happy that we got it, because it's like one of those things. We've been trying to recruit, and they've been putting in the work, but you kind of need those kills in order to get people interested into coming and doing Mythic with you. So it's almost like a catch-22. It's like we want to do Mythic, but you got to kill some Mythic to get the people to do Mythic. And it's kind of funny, since we got those 2 kills. I've been looking at the guild Discord. Several people have been dropping in and saying, "Oh, you guys got kills. When are y'all raiding?"
That's good. Yeah, that actually makes me happy, because I was kind of thinking about that too. Like, you guys really haven't like had any hits, Yeah, I thought if anything, maybe that might kind of jumpstart your recruitment a little bit.
It definitely looks better to say, "Hey, we want to do some Mythic raiding," when you have some kills under your belt. It's sometimes when you see a guild like, oh, we are planning to go into Mythic, it's like, okay, are you swinging above your weight class there, or are you actually going to do it?
Yeah, I was actually kind of thinking about that Friday before we even went into the raid. It was taking a really long time for them to actually fill up the group, and I almost offered just to be the person to actually list us, so that there would be a couple mythic kills, listed as under the raid leader.
Yeah,
I'm kind of wondering if that's why it took so long, because no one wants to do prog, right? Like at this point in the expansion, right? Maybe earlier on, but at this point in the expansion, if you're a pog, most likely you're not going to want to do prog, right? You just want to go in with a guild that, probably has 5 or 6 kills under their belt, right? And just knock them out.
that makes so much sense now that you say that. I didn't even think about that. Because he would have had 0 kills if they were looking at him.
Yep.
And
yep.
Yeah, I mean that makes total sense now, because I was really confused. I'm like, why are people not applying? Like, come on, let's get some easy mythic loot, But yeah, that definitely makes more sense.
I think your guy actually thought of that because he passed it over to your hunter that has the 2K IO score, and he had him list you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he had considered that maybe something a little bit higher, needed to show up under the listing. And so I bet you that's what they were talking about. But at one point, I thought about offering that, but that was before he, asked me if I could raid lead for the night. So I didn't want to be like, "Hey, give me lead. I'll list us." But he probably wouldn't have cared.
Well, at some point before this expansion ends, we have to raid together for from the start of a tier.
Yeah.
At some point, it's got to happen. Because we were kind of laughing about it, because you and I ended up in different guilds, but we both really have enjoyed the communities that we've kind of become part of, And I mean, it's one of those things with, it's a social game, but it's like one of those things you actually, you got to put in a little bit of effort there to meet people and get to know them. But I've really enjoyed this guild, and it's been fun. So it makes me happy to see them get some success,
Yeah. I can say the same with ours. I mean, a couple episodes ago, I talked about our officer crew having a fallout.
Yeah.
And since then, I've kind of been adopted as kind of like the co-raid leader. And we just happened to have a week or two where our main raid leader was off. I think he was sick, and he thought he had COVID, and, it was one of those deals. And so I ended up just like straight out raid leading a couple nights in a row, and I don't know, I kind of got the taste for it again. So ever since then, I'm kind of like the strategy guy, and he's kind of like the guy that calls stuff out, and I don't know, it works out really well together. But yeah,
and it was kind of funny that week that all the guild drama was going down. I was getting excited, and I was like hyping my guild up, and I'm like, they might be imploding. We might be getting a Tarithal. And they're like, oh man, that'd be awesome. Get all you guys together. And they didn't. Your rebels didn't take many people with them, so they didn't really do anything to y'all's raid.
Yeah,
we had like 3 false excitements where I was like, oh, I think we can get them. And we just no.
Nah, I really like my guild. I actually have a lot of friends in it, and I pretty much run keys almost every day with probably rotating like 6 or 7 people, and I really enjoy having the relationships with
that's
guys.
What made me think of the community story there.
Yeah.
Was today you and I both were actually running a bunch of keys, and we were kind of in Discord together for some of it, and but at the same time we were running with separate groups. I was running with my guild. I was running with the French Canadians, and you were running with your people. And we were both having a blast. But it's kind of funny that. But we're running with those other communities, which was kind of fun.
Usually I'm in Discord with them, and I got thinking about that like halfway through today. Because literally we woke up probably 10 a.m. and we were just chilling in Discord talking. And I was like literally running with them all morning. And I just thought it was kind of weird that no one had mentioned about like jumping in Discord together. Because I had literally just spamming key after key after key after key after key. And we just like never made the connection like, hey, we could all be in the same Discord together. So you and I basically just hung out all day. And
it was kind of funny. And I think with the a lot of my crew is French Canadian.
Oh, yeah.
It's I think well, for one, it's easier for them when they just to roll with the French.
Oh, okay.
I found out this week that apparently my accent is very, very thick, and I never quite realized that.
It
Um,
probably is, but listening to myself in the podcast, I live fairly close to Canada.
mhm.
I'm in the United States, but I'm fairly close to Canada. And I notice I have a little bit of that, I don't know, Canadian flavor in my accent as well.
I'm in the deep south, and we're already like full fledged spring down here with pollen everywhere.
Yeah.
But and I never quite realized that they, not all of them, a couple of them, really struggle to hear me,
Oh.
especially if I talk faster. Uh, Not really a problem on the podcast because I think I'm just kind of sitting here relaxed. But when I'm playing the game, I we'll call things out a little bit faster,
Hmm.
and they're sometimes they just don't even know what I'm saying, and I never realized that. Um, and yeah, because I can understand their English perfect, but they can't understand my English, which is kind of
Hmm.
funny.
Yeah, that's kind
But
of
yeah,
funny.
yeah. So like I was not in Discord with them, and probably could have actually saved some of the scuffing we did today had we been in Discord.
Yeah.
But then again, they may not have understood me, so I guess there's that.
Mm.
But yeah, it's kind of funny how that whole morning ended up happening.
So you got a 226 quantum device this week on one of your characters, huh?
I've been dodging this Russian roulette for so long now. My druid is just immortal to that. And the quantum device came out. Not really that great for Resto.
Yeah.
However, I've been playing Boomkin, and it's like the game new, and it was like, here you go, buddy. Go have fun. Convoke.
I have mixed opinions on that trinket specifically. I don't know, like I have a version of it on a couple of my characters, and I thought very highly of it back when you could use it as like a pre-pot, right? So you could pre-pot with the trinket to guarantee the like the crit or whatever, the mastery or whatever it ended up giving you. And then you could actually swap trinkets and it would continue to give you the buff. And then for the rest of the instance, or rest of the fight, you could just, not use it. And I guess people are using like weak ores and stuff now to track it to like guarantee the effect. But I think to a degree it's a sim trap. But at the same time, I see like all the high key runners and stuff like that. They're all using it. So,
and I didn't have anything else really great for Boomkin, and so it was really kind of fun for me to get that little bit of extra boost in the Mythic Plus. And it's a 3-minute cooldown, and I've got it tied to Celestial Alignment.
Okay.
Which is 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is kind of wonky because Convoke is at 2-minute cooldown.
Right.
But dude, like single target, it's the Boomkin's hitting really, really hard.
Yeah, it's ridiculously hard.
Yeah, I've had some fun doing some Mythic Plus on just Boomy.
Yeah, I can see it.
And their AoE is nothing to scoff at either. But yeah, I gotta.
Oh, go
so
ahead.
What?
Oh, go ahead. I'll talk after.
No, I was just saying it's been pretty fun. But go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I watched a Growl's most recent video, Yummy TV. I watched his most recent video, and I think it's kind of applicable to us. But at the beginning, he's essentially this video. What he's doing is he's critiquing a disc priest, and in this particular video, right? So it's not him playing; it's him reviewing someone else and like critiquing it. But in this video, this guy's running with a boomkin who types in chat, "Do I have to run trees this time, or can I run, or not?" And it cracks me up so much because every time I run with a boomkin, like the guys I run with now, they never ask, but typically I always ask like new boomkins if they are running trees because every single boomkin wants to get out of running trees. And it's a must for Mythic Plus. There's literally zero time. I don't care if it's a Sanguine week. There's zero time when you do not run trees. If it's a Sanguine week, you pop it while the ads are full health, and your tank doesn't have a cooldown running.
Do you know why they don't want to run it?
Well, I know they get more astral power or whatever if they don't run it.
It balances out to 50, which means they can go right into Starfall.
Yeah.
Without having to sit there and crank up from 0 up to 50 to get it. And so yeah, it's
But
I definitely did not use trees today. I was kind of selfish and went without. But I've been running it all the previous week, and I noticed that I got to a run with lights, and he was not running them. And
you're both pissing off your tank then. I mean, if they're ever run with trees,
I had trees and he didn't.
Okay.
And so, like, he was getting his AOE out so much faster, and I'm just sitting there having to crank it up, and I was like, dang. So I got a little selfish this week, and I put the trees up and was using the faster astral power. I forget what the talent's called. It's a tier 1, rank 1, whatever.
Yeah. It's literally a tank defensive cooldown is what you're bringing to the table when you have that.
It is valuable. It is great.
You're filling in the gaps in between tank defensive cooldowns. And a high key, it is mandatory. There is no exception. 0.
I was not doing anything higher than a 15 this week.
Yeah, you're probably fine there. But I mean, if you're running anything over that, it is mandatory.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's why they don't want to do it. But it is you've got to use it.
But yeah, anyways, in that video, it was just funny. He was talking about that. He's like, yeah, the boom kids are always like the kids in the grocery store, knowing their parents aren't going to let them buy the thing that they're asking about, but they always walk up to mom or dad and are like, can I get this or whatever, Mom and dad always shoot them down, but they always think there's that chance, that mom or dad will let them get that. And
no, you don't have to use the trees.
Yeah. Yeah, asking the tank specifically if you're supposed to bring trees or not. Yes, right. Yes, you bring trees, but
of course.
Anyways, yeah, that's funny.
This week we also finished our renown.
Yep.
Got our titles, got our mounts.
Well, you finished your renown. I still haven't done that on any of my characters.
Do you have it?
Nope. There's no power. There's no power reward. That's why I say I get lazy when there's no character power tied to it. That I completely become lazy. I'm sure I will finish it by tomorrow or by Tuesday. Anyways, I'll go through my characters tomorrow. And
are you at least 38? Like you're right
yeah.
there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm 38 on all 3 characters.
Okay.
Typically Monday is my day where I go through and finish my chores. Right. I think I have 2 characters now that I've got the Pally Max. 2 characters to do Torghast on, and then excuse me, and then all of them to get some of that renown finished up. So,
well, I'm pretty sure they will probably do something like tie flying to it or something like that.
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
There's a chance they could do something, but that was like one of my big things to do each week was first thing on Tuesday was open up the vault, try to pick up all your little weeklies and things, and then get that renown cranked out. Because there was a few that actually gave you character power. You got that stamina and things. So
it's very possible they move into like a double legendary system later on in the game. And it's possible at like 75 or something like that you unlock your second legendary, right? Because that's essentially what they did back in was that Legion or Pandaland? There's something like that.
Legion.
Yeah.
It was Legion where you could eventually get, and that was the one where like you like had that little T down the list of like research or something.
Right.
And at the very bottom you got your second legendary, which opened up a lot of crazy stuff.
So I could see them doing that maybe down the road. I don't think it'll be a 9.1, but I think they would have announced that by now, right?
I feel like you would see some really insane power creep if they let you do 2 legendaries.
Yeah.
Right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They would have to bring in like a second set of legendaries. Like you could have one of this or one of that. Because with the current set right now, if you could have more than one of those, oh my goodness.
Yeah, Fire has been talking about that. He's kind of been getting bored with the Fire Mage.
Right.
And he was telling me that he's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe next tier I'll go like a Warlock or something. But he's like, yeah, if there's ever two legendaries, man, oof. He's like, that opens like up a brand new ball game, It's like there's so much.
Power Mage or
for the Mage, because there's just like so much you can do, right?
Right.
I think that's true for everyone.
Yeah. So, and I also don't like that when the power creep just goes off the charts like that, kind of like the end of BFA.
Well, the thing specifically I don't like is that they time gate some of it. And so specifically with like the corruption system, right? You were time gated on when you had essentially the resource to open up the like the siege of Stormwind or whatever it was, you know. And so you're time gated on actually acquiring the resources and able to do the runs to get the corruption pieces or like to upgrade your back piece, your cape. And so you had like a huge difference in between like a main character that had been grinding that all along versus
Right. You're talking about the visions.
Yeah, the visions, sorry. And I really don't like that. I think we've talked about that before, but yeah, I really don't like that system where there's like you're rewarded for playing an entire expansion, which I get, but at the same time, you know, if you want to join up for like the last 6 months of an expansion, you're never going to get to the power levels of like someone else's main, right?
Right. And you know, you couldn't really. I mean, you could do it all, but you had to go do all those dailies that were just so annoying because you had the 2 different zones. Remember?
Yeah.
That gave you the currency that you went and bought the keys.
Yep.
Which were those vials. So then go do the visions, which then lets you. It was just one long, stupid grind, and I hated it.
Yeah.
Plus, you also had different rank 3s coming up on the vendor after a while. And people were just, I mean, it was just crazy. Arena was horrible.
I kind of liked actually some of the stuff they did in Arena. I was thinking about that today. I logged into some of my Alliance characters. And I saw I still had the Maledict PvP trinket from last expansion.
Oh yeah.
And that was actually kind of a fun trinket. Like
that was a really good trinket. Yeah.
That was the Arena trinket, right?
Yeah, malediction, was that what it was called?
Malediction, yeah. But I remember us, you know, getting someone to like 40% and then calling out Mallies, you know, like screaming in Discord, like Mally, like finish him off, Mally.
Yeah. And what that trinket did was it put basically a heal shield, I guess. Oh, not shield, heal absorb.
Yeah.
On that target that the healer had to heal through before any of the heals would actually hit that player.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a hefty little absorb too. It wasn't, you know, anything to.
Well, it was a dot as well as a dot, and I'm pretty sure you could stack them. And so maybe I'm wrong on that, but
I can't remember. I feel like we did dogpile all of our.
Oh, we did, but that's probably because we're bad.
yeah. We're horrible at PvP.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great little trinket. I forgot about that one actually.
Yeah, that one. And then there was like the motorcycle that came in and hit someone for a lot of damage. I thought the ending trinkets were pretty cool.
Yeah, was that at the end, or was that there?
Well, it was probably all expansion, but yeah, I know we were using it at the end.
Okay. Yeah. Tell me about your monk fixes.
Yeah, so I spent like half of last episode just complaining about the monk, and I took it into Lady Enerva. So last week, I think it was Thursday. Yeah, last Thursday we put a little bit of progress into her. Yeah, we do like the Zerg strategy, right? And of course, when you're doing a Zerg strategy, you want all the buffs. And we don't have a monk in our guild that raids with us normally. And so I'm essentially like the dual classer, right? I just kind of fill in whatever we need. And so I brought my monk in and ended up fist weaving specifically to try to pump out some damage and to fill that buff on Thursday. And I brought it in on Tuesday. And so this is post nerf, you know, thinking, okay, I'm going to do absolutely no damage. And it was okay. It was better than I thought. Along with the Fist of Fury change that they did, so that your clones no longer, you know, continue to cast it after you cancel. They ended up going through the monk kit, and they found out the 200% spinning crane kick talent that you take wasn't actually calculating correctly. And so they fixed that, which was actually a buff. So it was doing flat damage instead of percentage damage or something like that. And so spinning crane kick still feels really powerful. And then on top of that, Fist of Fury, the tooltip was wrong. And so the tooltip has always said you can hit up to 6 targets with it, but apparently you can only hit 5. And so your AoE got a little bit better to compensate for some of the annoying changes that they fixed. But overall, I would say I think I was bursting less than I was before. There was one pull specifically where I was bursting just as hard, but I think I got some lucky procs on my spinning crane kick. And there was only one pull where I caught myself at the top of the meter, which is a little unusual because of the way the actual spinning crane kick stacks were applying. It takes a lot more setup now. And so overall, I still think it's a nerf, but we ended up killing it. And
So are you going to still hold the funeral for the monk?
I think the monk is probably going to be our brewmaster in Mythic Plus going forward. It might end up being a Windwalker still. I don't think it feels too bad, but
It's not clunky or anything, right?
no, it doesn't feel too clunky. I mean, it actually feels the same. And the rotation, which was kind of like my main concern, because last week I wasn't sure if you'd have to hardcast Fist of Fury or if you'd end up canceling it now. Mm-hmm. And you do exactly the same rotation unless you have more than 50% haste, which no one was stacking haste, so no one has 50% haste. But yeah, it's exactly the same rotation, just does a little bit less damage. Not too bad.
Okay. Well, I know that was a big concern of you for you going forward, and I was just kind of curious how it was going to play out. Yeah. I'm impressed that you're fist weaving on that guy. I didn't know you had him set up for that.
Yeah. Well, I kind of did it one week just to meme. I ended up healing one of our heroic raids as a fist weaver. It's just like an off Wednesday raid, and I was freaking pumping, man. Like I was like destroying the healing meters at least for like that specific week. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was still pumping out, 5 to 7k average on fight, which most healers don't end a fight at 5 to 7k, Right. And so I was doing a ton of healing, and so ever since then, like there was 1 week that was really nasty, and I was having trouble healing Mythic Plus keys, and so I took the Fist Weaver in, and dude, it was a breeze. And so I don't know if it just like hits my my sweet spot, of just like my healing playstyle or what, but
yeah,
like I don't know. I'm definitely not pumping as high as the other healers. Like we had a holy priest and a shaman that were pretty much trashing me on the fight, but at the same time, I was doing a lot more damage, right? And we were doing a Zerg strategy, so I don't know. It was fine. We got our our 30% wipe with the worst strat last week doing it, and then no, actually that's not true. I did it on Tuesday this week. We had a 3% wipe, so we got a 3% wipe with me fist weaving. And then
so what'd you have on the kill?
Well, Thursday we had someone out on Tuesday, one of our healers, and so I ended up playing the monk on Thursday, but I was actually DPS instead. So we just we rotated in our healer, and I ended up just filling one of the DPS slots of someone. I think we had someone filling in on Tuesday. So
okay.
Yeah, got to DPS it down. It's kind of annoying, though, because I do multi-class in the raid. And so I've only killed Lady Enerva on my monk, and I've only killed Hungering Destroyer on my priest. And so both my characters say 3 or 4 mythic, even though I've killed 4. So it's kind of annoying in that sense, right? From like a Raider IO perspective, but
yeah,
we got to get the job done, so.
Well, you'll probably get Sun King this week. Sounds like you're... Especially if the dude is cranking 50k.
Yeah. I want to see that first. That's a pretty large claim.
That sounds.
He is one of our, if not our top performing DPS, and I know he spends a lot of time, looking at that. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him, in the high 40s, next week. And he's actually the guy that I referred to a couple episodes ago about being the guy that has the corner on the leatherworking market.
Yeah.
And I think he's gold capped on a couple different characters. And so I know today he went and actually bought a couple 226 pieces just so that he can get more healing out on Sun King.
Nice.
Just to tweak some stats a little bit, he's just blowing a couple 100k, but
yeah. Hey, if you got it,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of want to see how that works out. Like, even 40k, I'd still be very impressed.
Yeah, no, I mean, he'll definitely hit 40k.
You think so?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he was hitting 35, 37 last week, and he said it was unoptimized, which I trust him, with that. So, yeah, I think he will. I think we'll actually get through phase 1 too quickly.
Is he trying to get more haste? Is that what he's trying to do?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know exactly what he's doing, but
Because my other Druid healer that I heal with, she's got double my haste,
okay.
and yeah, in some fights she just blows me out of the water. I can't keep up with her.
Well, the thing with Sun King is you want a very specific setup, and even as like a holy priest, I'm taking stuff that I would never take. Yeah, holy priest. I would never take stuff that I'm taking for that fight into like any other fight. I'm taking like, if your guardian spirit isn't used, you get 60 seconds taken off of your guardian spirit, right? If it's not actually absorbed or whatever.
Right.
Like all that kind of stuff. You never take that normally outside of like very niche situations. And so I'm sure he's doing something like that, right?
Right.
But yeah, hopefully next week we get that down.
Well, I mean, maybe if he's spamming. I'm sorry. I mean,
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like, is he stacking crit? Like, I don't, something you wouldn't normally think of, but I don't know. That's weird. Okay.
Yeah, I'll ask him. I'll let you know.
I have to pick his brain. Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So Sun King for y'all next week.
Yep. What are you guys thinking?
Well, I mean, the next step would normally be hunger, but that's a very, big. That's a big hurdle, because here's the problem with pugging
Mm-hmm.
is the lockouts.
Yeah.
You kind of need to either, if somebody leaves, you got to get somebody who's not locked out already, and let's say you kill the first two and then some people leave, and you're trying to bring somebody in for hunger. Well, if they're not locked out, I mean, are they even that good? There's so many little problems that could happen. So I think it's gonna be tough. I think we're still gonna be pushing for recruiting. Still, we're still gonna do the cross realm, but
I think you'll need to. For me personally, I think I have a very pug friendly hunger strat. Like way more pug friendly than like the normal mainline or mainstream 4-circle box or diamond strategy that basically every video tells you to do. I think my strategy is way easier for pugs. And in fact, we recruited a bunch of trials basically 2 weeks in a row and did the strategy and got kills both nights. Like it's a very learnable strategy. And so I think it can be done. But yeah, doing progress on that boss and then having to bring people in, from the pug scene.
Yeah, and it's just the lockout specifically is going to make it a little bit more difficult than it really should be at this point. But it is what it is. Yeah. So that's going to be kind of what we're pushing towards, is probably, I guess, trying to get another boss down, which would be hunger. Next week, we're pushing keys.
I mean, we always say we're pushing keys. We'll have to see if we're actually pushing keys, I guess.
I don't think it's gonna be a bad week.
Nah. I'll just tank all next week. The Spitefulls won't even hit me. I'll be happy.
It's one of those things. It could be so smooth, but then one random mess up and one of your melee is just dead on the ground instantly.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things. It keeps you on your toes.
I'll tell you what.
Keeps your healer on your toes.
I'll tell you what. My goal right now. So I got this pally and I maxed him out today at like noon. My goal is by tomorrow to have done a 10 key on that character. I think I'm ready. I'm at 170 eye level. I'm ready for a 10. It's my goal.
I'll trade you a 15 for a 10 tomorrow. How about that?
Yeah, actually, I'd be down for that. Yeah, you want to do that flagpole, right?
Yeah, I've got a buddy that needs KSM. So
okay.
Yeah, it's nothing for me. I just need to get KSMs out there.
How much is he paying you for the boost? You didn't tell me that. You just told me, hey, I want to see your strategies. You didn't tell me that there's a KSM on the line. You're
getting a 10 on your brand new 60. So
I could do it in a pug. They just have to invite me.
Yeah, nobody's gonna do that. They've done the research. Preach did it. Yeah. I can get that invite.
I've got the I've got it on my main. I'll just have to link my account so they can see
it. Yeah. Yeah, my goal this week is definitely probably gonna be the shaman. Yeah, get that up.
It should be fun. You say you're gonna go in elemental? That's what we had talked about last time.
Probably for leveling it'd be resto, just so tank healer all the way up.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to do an elemental / resto type deal,
Uh-huh.
kind of like I do with
Smart.
Boomkin.
Yeah, that's smart.
Because I really do want to play with elemental. I really kind of do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm very curious about playing around with the resto shaman just because they're so awesome right now.
Yeah, they are. And I think for Mythic Plus specifically, they're the elemental coming out and like, aggroing things when you need it, and they got a kick, which is unusual for healer.
SLT.
Yeah, SLT. Yeah, so let us know about this. Let us know about this. And if you're listening to this on YouTube, or if you have our Discord, which join our Discord, let us know if me calling Spirit Link Totem SLT is weird. I feel like everyone calls it SLT now, and I got called out on that. Someone's like, "Oh, are all the cool kids calling it SLT now?"
Like literally SLT. It's the same amount of syllables as Spirit Link.
Totem.
Like, who says totem? Like, can you Spirit Link? That's what we've always said.
That's
like,
what all the cooldowns are now. SLT,
that thing was
AMZ, AMS.
Spirit Link, and all of a sudden you're saying, all right, SLT, while we were, progging Mythic, and I'm like,
were you thinking that too? You didn't chime in on that.
No, I let him have his fun, giving you some crap about it. But yeah, I was a little bit lost. I'm like, Stone Legion. Wait, what? What are we talking about? And then it hit me after a couple seconds there. But the first time you said it, I was a little caught off guard. That is definitely not something I'm not aware of. But I'm getting old. I don't know what the cool kids say these days.
All right, I'm flexing a little bit here, but how good was that raid leading on that boss? So we got that thing down in 5 pulls, and I micromanaged the crap out of it.
I thought it was very, very, very smooth. You did a good job.
Thank you.
It was kind of funny because you were calling specifically for Drexy's roar first.
Yeah.
And we had already worked it out amongst ourselves.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so that's why I was roaring every time on first. Because she didn't want to do it the first one.
Oh, okay.
I specifically had asked her.
Okay.
And what happened originally was I was trying to kind of just clear up one less thing that you had to worry about. But then I never communicated that to you that I had already sorted out all the roars.
I actually saw 2 of them go out every single time. 2 of them went out at the same time, but they were always up when we needed them, so it didn't matter. But I did actually notice that 2 people would hit them.
And so I was always doing it first, and then she was supposed to go second, and then it would get a little confusing a little bit later, but that's why that was happening.
Yeah,
we went ahead and like sorted it out amongst ourselves because it's such an easy thing. Like they come out, you just immediately press it,
Yeah, that would have made a great YouTube video. 2 pug bosses or 2 mythic pug bosses down in 2 hours, because that took 2 hours. That's actually crazy, isn't it? We got 2 bosses down, 2 brand new bosses down for people within 2 hours in a pug.
Yeah, honestly, I should start recording these pug mythics.
Yeah.
Just to see the fun that happens there.
Yeah. Or the waiting, the elevator music in the background.
Yeah. Fast forward,
Yeah. Be a lot of fast forwarding, but
having to sacrifice myself to get the kill. Running off in the corner.
The funny thing about that kill specifically is we were kind of thinking, like, there was this paladin that was with us as a healer, and the guy wasn't like doing mechanics well at all. Like we had done like 3 pulls already, and it's really simple. Just get the Sim Seeker to the world marker. You have a mark over your head, and you get it to the world marker. And this guy's off in like no man's land. But I actually looked at the Warcraft log afterwards, and that dude was like, he parsed like a 98% or something like that. Like he was doing like 7k healing on that fight. And I guess it's just because we were 4 healing it, but I don't know. That kind of caught me off.
Well, he wasn't doing bad healing at all.
Yeah.
Mine definitely fell off because I died.
But there was 2 seconds left after you died.
Oh, there was longer than that. There was quite a bit left.
There probably was. Yeah, there probably was.
But no, we were like me and the other Drew were actually trashing him on the first boss.
Yeah.
All those pulls we put in. The actual kill I did kind of crappy on just because the way the pull went.
Mm-hmm.
But we were just demolishing those guys. And I think the very last pull, I think the shaman actually came in.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of felt good because both those classes can outperform druids on that fight. So yeah, and then so that guy was not doing his bubble. He was supposed to be one of the immunities, and we actually had some. I think 2 of our battle reses got used, so 1 or 2, just because of that guy messing up. I think.
Well,
I can't remember how the battle reses went out in that particular pool, but.
Yeah,
but it was guaranteed that he was messing up 1 each pool.
Yeah. Do you like that rating strategy though, where like the healing cooldowns are micromanaged, or does that stress you out?
You were never calling mine.
Well, Trank, yeah, I guess that's true. I never really called.
You were always calling for the other druids first, and so I was looking really shitty on the meters, and so I don't know. The only time I really got some good cooldown time was when everything went bad, and we were trying to SLT and heal through it. And I was able to, convoke, wild growth, flourish, tranquility, all at once. Try to blow out because you can really do some mass healing with all that. And I would look fantastic and just blow past everybody. But just your average pulls, because it's such a boring fight minus the transition. Nothing was happening, and whenever you did need something, you were using the other druid. And so
so the reason I was doing that, and that wasn't like anything personal at you, I literally look at the top left of my screen, I've got all the healing cooldowns, and I literally just read from top to bottom, and her name was before yours. That's literally the only reason why.
The alphabetical?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
I'm renaming the tune.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm gonna be A.
That's why I was like calling her Roar first and stuff like that, because she was literally at the top of my list. And so yeah, that's the reason why.
Yeah, so I don't know. I personally don't care. As long as bosses die.
Yeah. That's kind of my philosophy with like the dual classing too, right? In between the monk and the priest is like, I'm like, as long as the bosses die, I don't care what shows up on my Raider IO.
Yeah.
I know that we're 4 of 10 right now, and if both my characters say 3/10, it's kind of like whatever.
And just like in heroic, I probably was not even like on Sire. I think I've got those cooldowns like mastered perfectly. And the 2 of us had the other druid had actually worked together for a couple of pulls where I was calling it out and specifically when to blow things, and then after that we just had to stop calling. And when we stopped calling it because we had it down.
Yeah.
And that's probably like the only time we actually like micromanaged a little bit. For the most part, we're just sniping the hell out of each other and the other healers in heroic and just having fun with it.
Yeah.
But no, in Mythic, that I don't care as long as bosses die. I know my druid can crank. It's just doing the right thing at the right time and making sure the boss dies.
Yeah, I might have to peek in if you guys end up doing that boss again and I'm not there. I might have to look over your shoulder and see if every little micromanage thing that I was doing gets paid attention to.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious if he's going to try to run it like you again.
So, sure. Oh, well, it's a good strategy, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's not even like flexing. It's literally just a good strategy, right? And so, I mean, you can emulate it, but there's just it's one of those things, right? We had just done it so many times. There's just a lot of stuff that goes into the shot calling that seems so trivial, until it's not called out. And then you just spend, all night wiping on the stuff that essentially has been optimized, just to essentially like maximize your success. So it's going to be a roar that's not called out. It's going to be a grip that's not called out at the right time. It's a healing cooldown that's not called out at the right time. It's telling people not to be, in a certain place at a certain time. All that kind of stuff kind of rolls over.
Yeah.
So,
well, do you have any final thoughts for this week?
Final thoughts for this week. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel. Want to see you on YouTube or in our Discord. Come say hi to us.
The link is on YouTube.
It is, yeah. Maybe we should do a better job of putting that somewhere else. But yeah, you can look us up, the Depleted Key Podcast on YouTube. You can even just listen to our episodes there if you want. But yeah, our Discord is linked there. And give us some stuff to talk about. Like, we kind of brainstorm before every episode what we want to talk about. and just kind of generically map some ideas out. But I mean, if there's anything interesting, like if you want to know anything about our classes, or if you want to know any of our strategies, like, you know, how do I randomly pull a Plague War onto Spoog and have him get blown up? You know, what's the best way of doing that? You know, I've got some tips for you, so let me know. Or let us know, rather. But,
all right. Well, everybody have a good week.
Have a great week.